Hey everybody, this is Joe Dyer with This Week in Legacy, Vintage 101, The Power of Pauper here at MTGO Goldfish. Yeah, we're returning to some form with some little bit more videos that we would like to put out. So this is going to be a little bit of a different experiment for me. What I'm going to try and do for this particular video is actually I went ahead and already recorded all of the matches without audio. I was going to cut them up and then come in and talk over them. So that was going to be the idea. I was going to watch them and talk over them and cut that into the video. So let me know if you like that better or worse. I think it's fun to kind of like poke fun at myself a little bit. So maybe that might be fun. But yeah, we'll give it a shot. This week, in light of the recent announcements that there would not be an emergency ban announcement for any formats until August 26, which is the schedule ban announcement, I figured we'd play the bad guy. So we are definitely playing some Rescaminator this week. For those who aren't really familiar with this deck, this is kind of what the evolution of blue-black Reanimator has become in Legacy, utilizing the scam package of Grief Reanimate alongside cards like Archon of Cruelty, Artraxa, Grand Unifier, Gristlebrand, Daze, Force of Will, all those fun cards. But one of the new cards that really elevated this deck quite a bit is from Modern Horizons 3, and that's Psychic Frog. Yeah. Let's see what nonsense we can get up into with a little Rescaminator. And once again, I'd like to thank Magic Online Content Creator Program for allowing us to do this kind of thing. It's really, really sweet of them to allow us to be here and doing these kinds of events. So thank you, Magic Online, for all that you do, and we will get right here over to the matches pretty soon. All right, so we are here for round one, watching this back on my end, not as I was playing, but as I'm watching. So this is fun. Yeah, I don't think this was a good keep for me. This felt really awkward. I probably should have mulliganed this. Definitely was super weird to lead on Undercity Sewers. Yeah. Felt very strange. Like, I get it. Like, we had Entomb and we had Brainstorm and we had, all that fun stuff. But it doesn't feel like it was correct. I don't know. Like, our opponent was on, actually, as we will see here shortly, my opponent was on lands of some sort. Well, it was like lands, green-white depths, that sort of thing. It was definitely lands. They led on exploration, and so exploration into wasteland, woof. We're already off to a pretty rough start there. Especially after having dumped that Underground Sea into the graveyard. I know that's like you're not really able to, 100% determine, what, an opponent's going to do in the blind. But I think even in the blind, I think this was a bad keep. Just thinking about it and looking it over. We're able to. So Loam here makes things real awkward. And then second exploration and this wasteland makes it really hard for me to need blue-black and having to get it with just a basic swamp for the cycle with Troll. Yeah, I mean, this Force of Will, there's some reasonable things here. I feel like I should have just went for reanimating the Troll instead of giving my opponent a turn. That was really awkward. At the very least, I could have started trying to get some damage on the board hanging out here and waiting was the worst part, I think. I don't think I should have done that. I think I should have just went for it. I think I was thinking too much about crop rotation, but... And, like, I'm forcing this loam. This is not good. Like, even then, I could have done some things. Now, I was thinking about this in Tomb. Like, I had two... I could have animated dead the troll and then in Tomb animated dead either Gristlebrand or Archon. Probably should have gotten Archon here, because at the very least, if they maze it, then it's kind of a rough thing. Now, we did draw some cool cards here. Unfortunately, I don't think I should have pitched that Entomb. I probably should have pitched the Animate Dead so that I could Entomb and get Archon and have an Archon. Archon, I think, was probably the best card here by a long shot. Especially since we're, able to force and all that stuff. I think that should have been where we should have gone. Instead, I tunnel visioned on this Mazavith. I think that was the biggest issue for me. Just not slowing down and thinking about the Mazavith being a thing. That made it really awkward. And Saga, and then Tabernacle, and then Bog. Just a lot of things here that I probably could have stacked up right off the bat. That would have been great. And so I got really focused on this. So yeah, we got a wasteland here. Again, I don't know why I would be pitching a reanimate. I think I was just focusing on making sure that their life in the loam just never resolved again. I don't really know. And of course, they have a stage to make that, to make it another Mazavith. And then just not having to discard a bunch of cards. Felt super rough. And then a second Mazavith here. Felt extremely rough. It was fine to pitch this Daze to that, but yeah. Alright. So again, we're in a position where we have to have something to get rid of a card. Trying to find, we really tunnel visioned onto this needing a wasteland for this Mazavith. And not finding it really hurt pretty badly. So we wrapped it up, and then starting into game 2. Just an absolutely unkeepable hand right off the bat, which was really rough to see. And then this seemed reasonable. I liked having the frog right out of the bat. I probably should have put the entomb back. But the frog looked good for the most part. But I think I definitely should have put Entomb back on the off chance I opened up Reanimate or an Animate Dead, that sort of thing. This was a pretty rough ponder, too. Alright. So, yeah, opening up on Wasteland and then Grafdigger's Cage. I don't know why I let this resolve, to be honest with you. I was thinking more of like the line of having Psychic Frog as an option. And then it seemed good in my head to do this, but then it's like, here's a Mazabeth. So at this point, we're just forcing our opponent to have to either use the Wasteland or whatever they're going to do, but also having to force them to maze. Yeah, and they chose to do the Wasteland. And I think we played this game for a little bit, like our opponent. We kind of just spent some time going back and forth with this frog, and we just kept drawing card after card after card that wasn't a land. And that didn't help either in this game. Lush Portico. The Surveil lands are certainly very strong. Alright. You go to our opponent's turn. And like I was thinking about this daze quite a bit. Yeah, Soul Guide Lantern didn't seem like it was worth countering at that point. So we just kind of kept going, and we kept drawing cards that just weren't cards that we wanted to draw in this matchup. And yeah, just playing the, okay, well, I attack, and you have to maze. It would have been nice to have multiple creatures, but now they have 2 mazes, so that's awkward. We just kind of let this one resolve because we had a removal spell in hand for it. At least being able to cast something off of this. Again, we just like kept drawing like all of the Reanimator targets, which is great if you want to pitch, Attracts and a Force Will, to have it as a black card to pitch to Force Will, especially with this Cage and this Soul Guide Lantern in play, but it didn't really do well for us, unfortunately. So, yep. The Saga and a Loam. We went ahead and at least forced the Loam. But this is not a game we're winning at this point. We're definitely on the back foot of this point of this game at this point. Seemingly very rough. They have definitely just the draws themselves have not helped the mana. And yeah, so we eventually concede this game here, as we'll see shortly. They have a lot of options now at this point with this saga. They try to go on this loam again, but even countering it, I don't think really does anything and doesn't really win us the game. Yeah, see, they try to go to loam, and so we definitely go for countering it, but with the way our draws are just like lining up here, just drawing yet another land just doesn't really do it for us, unfortunately. So we go to concede. We definitely try to see what's coming up with Undercity Sewers. It's another land, and all right, so we are here for round 2 of this league with Rescaminator. This, not sure how I felt about this one, but I definitely ended up keeping it right off the bat. I generally have to get in the habit of stopping to keep ones that have the Undercity Sewers like right at the bat, but we did draw a Polluted Delta. So that was something that did occur, so I think that helped us from our lack of having to play a tap land on turn 1. So, you know, we kind of just let our opponent kind of have their thing. They got their brainstorm in. We definitely, I think we tried to kind of go off on the aspect of trying to get reanimated something big into play, just kind of waiting for our opponent to get through and do their brainstorm. And again, waiting for our opponent. Our opponent did sit here for a little bit. It was very strange. Not really sure what was going on there, but so our game plan here was to basically, you know, end step and tomb, reanimate, have at least a mana up for days, maybe hopefully draw some sort of blue card for the Force of Will. That was the hope, at least. But while we were waiting for our opponent, we just kind of hung out just a second and waited for them to get to us. So anyways, while our opponent here is waiting to go do their thing, I do want to just reiterate thank you to our Magic Online Content Creator Program for everything that they do and for allowing me to do all this fun stuff. This was a new experiment for me, trying to like kind of cut things together to where I was talking over these videos and not talking while I was playing. Maybe trying to kind of record / figure out if I'm you know, me trying to talk over while I'm playing is impacting the gameplay, and really just trying to focus more on the gameplay. So hey, there we go. We get to attempt to do some reanimation stuff, but I think we just kind of decided, okay, we're going to do Undercity Sewers. We will draw this card because we can always do things on my turn. So trying to go Entomb, and they did have Force of Will for the Entomb. I thought about fighting over this. Maybe I should have. I don't really know. But definitely was something I considered fighting over. But I ended up ultimately deciding, okay, maybe we don't fight over that, and maybe we fight over if they attempt to reanimate something, So maybe they have, try to go into Tomb or something. See what happens there. But thought it was a good idea to kind of like hold on to things. And then our opponent actually disconnected at this point. So that was awkward. That was something I actually did not notice in the heat of the moment of playing this game. So that's kind of sort of amusing that they definitely disconnected, and that's what took them so long. Yeah, I think I would like to do a little bit more of these types of videos. Definitely seems like it's kind of interesting to be able to look at myself from the future into the past and see just how I'm looking at while I'm playing, and maybe try to focus more on the gameplay for these videos. I still want to do some more streams. I definitely want to do some more Pauper content. I definitely want to do some more vintage content, and hopefully some more legacy stuff. If there's something very specific you would like me to try and look at, please let me know. Otherwise, I don't know really what I want to do here. I really want to would like to try and set up a donation deck list kind of thing. That would be fun. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So our opponent did come back, and they were griefing me. They griefed my reanimate, which was fine. I think we were worried about them taking our Force of Will. Them having a follow-up Wasteland. This is a weird heads-up play. I didn't have any mana available, and they just they caught me with days on this one. And I just kind of played into it and didn't even think about it. As we will see here shortly with the days. My opponent. Yeah, so they decided to just float a mana and then bounce their Underground Seed into days. Which is rough. So not only do we lose our mana, but we lose our blue card for Force of Will, technically. I could have just let it go, but it is what it is. So playing another tap land feels real bad to have that in there. But we got a blue card for Force of Will at least. And kind of checking graveyards here. They have their grief. We have nothing in our graveyard to reanimate, so go on the offensive of reanimating their grief. And the Entomb is interesting here, because I think it's just so that we don't take it with our grief. But I don't think they know that we have a card. So basically, they have a flood of strand in hand, so that we don't pitch the card that they have in hand. They just have that. So now we at least know that all they have in hand here is a flooded strand, and we can hopefully keep things going. And they drew that Undercity Sewer's Return, so that's pretty good. Second Animate Dead is kind of fun, because then we get to, animate dead their tracks. And it's very clear that wins the game. So we go on to game 2, and this seemed reasonable. I had, classic, island, land type ponder, fatal push. A lot of these post-board games revolve around Psychic Frog. Really, a lot of these games in general revolve around Psychic Frog. That card pretty fantastic in that regards for this match, the mirror match and everything. So waiting for our opponent to resolve their ponder. And I think the primary game plan here was obviously to just lead on Underground Sea Ponder, so that we can kind of get things going. And I have Fairy Macabre up in case they decide to go, you know, grief, scam, that sort of thing. And that was at least the idea, was to be able to do it that way. Our opponent probably having some issues, I think, in this game, in the match at least, just not just having things kind of not line up for them in terms of, like, I guess be disconnected, or PC being slow is what I would have to gather. Or probably looking at this ponder and going, I don't like any of these cards. I've done that many times. Many times of looking at a ponder and going, I don't like any of these cards. And then I put them all back and I hit shuffle and I draw the same card. So that happens quite a bit. But alright. Oh, so this was interesting. Them griefing afterwards really lets me kind of go, okay, well, we'll just force it. This is the one spot where grief really does stink. So then we get to go try to reanimate their grief. And getting that felt really good. So Brazen Borrower. Definitely a thing. That Wasteland in hand while not having another land to line it up against feels really bad, but we've got a 3/2 with Menace, and that they've got to draw out of, so... Unfortunately, we don't draw another land this next turn, which is awkward as heck. So yeah, we draw Gristlebrand, which is like, all right, cool, Gristlebrand. But yeah, we're just you know, getting in there for damage with the grief. I expect them to either cast the Brainstorm here, and they do. I just still don't like instant Brainstorms like this. Personally, I don't think they're that good. I think you could wait and draw when you have more information with the next card you drew. But it is what it is. So our opponent, we have some things here that we can do. So the biggest thing here is they have cycled Troll Khazad-dûm, and I expect that they try to reanimate said troll, which we pitch and we hit that, and we hit their Brazen Borrower, so another creature that they get hit. It felt really important to do that, just to get them from not having it. And so then us having drawing an Underground Sea, and then being able to attack. Pretty good. So they still have this one Brainstorm in hand out of the 3 cards in their hand. We do expect that they're going to cast that here. And, yep, they go to cast that. We know about that. The biggest thing here is, I think if they'd have had a Wasteland, things would have been a lot worse for me. Just because of all these black spells I have in hand. But cycling Troll of Khazad-dûm, and then I think they tried to animate dead Troll. Pretty rough on it. on them, really, because of Dark Betrayal. But we jam this frog because frog is frog, and it's a very powerful card to have in play. So I think the big thing here is they go try to go in on Animate Dead on a troll. It's either Animate Dead or Reanimate. But I believe it was Animate Dead. I guess we'll see. I'm trying to remember these matches as best as I can while I'm recording over them. So, yeah. Oh, it's Petty Theft. Yeah, they attempted to Petty Theft the frog, and then Wastelanded me. So the Wasteland was rough, but the Brainstorm nabbed us out of it. So we put back Crystal Brand and whatnot, and just kind of held on to the frog. I don't think we needed to grief at all here, because our opponent having an Animate Dead here with Dark Betrayal being a thing in this sideboard, and they're out of cards in hand, which was pretty nice. So we get to do that, and yeah, that will pretty quickly wrap this game up. We get to kind of see like the weirdness of how this deck does things from a scam perspective, but also getting to see just how powerful it is just to reanimate your opponent's creatures in this game. And I don't, no matter what they have available here, yeah, they have a grief, which doesn't hit the Dark Betrayal in hand, so that wraps it up. So we'll be headed over to round 3 shortly here. Okay, so this is one of our longer rounds here, but this hand was definitely not keepable. There was a lot going on here, and I don't think we could keep that quite at all. This hand looked a lot better. I waffled a little bit, but I think we definitely went on. We went on having the Wasteland available because we had Troll. So having Troll plus Reanimate makes for some strong gameplay. So I think in the play this was a good one. Obviously, kind of looked like we were up against the mirror again here. I've played against a lot of these the scam decks for sure. So we definitely forgot we needed to crack our Polluted Delta in order to fetch with Troll. Yeah, we get to play Wasteland. And we go to reanimate the Troll. And they just have a Force Will for it, so we definitely go on some offensive and fight this. Because having a 6 power creature right off the bat on turn 2, pretty good. So yeah, just kind of trying to get in there and get some damage on the board with this Troll. And drawing this Daze was fantastic, honestly. I liked having this Daze. And putting the Force of Will on top Probably didn't matter if we were ever planning on just casting this days for its actual like alt cost, but seems okay. So here's where things got really weird, I think, in this first game. This first game definitely had a scenario where our opponent forgot that Troll has like super menace, so it can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. So grief. I think if they had done the grief, then I think things would have been a little bit easier. But I think they were thinking about, I reanimate a troll. My opponent, I can get my opponent's troll. And so, yeah, playing a second Underground CE to play around the days. And yeah, they reanimate my troll before quickly realizing that troll was also 6 power, and I just swing back on the crackback, which is awesome. All right, so we open up on game 2. And this seemed okay. Again, troll plus, card. Just kind of hoping to kind of have the velocity there. It seemed like a really good play. Fatal Push seemed really good. Brazen Bar also seemed very good. We could deal with a frog. We could deal with, reanimate a troll. Unfortunately, like, they also have the game plan of reanimating a troll. Or rather, yeah, just straight reanimating. So I think our mistake was actually getting this tap land, the surveil land. And just because I feel like we should have done something else to try and get on the board. Especially with having Entomb, reanimate. Probably should have held on, done something else. But yeah, so getting a swing in. I probably should have just bounced this, but I was kind of wondering if they were going to do something else, like maybe play a frog or something like that. But yeah, so this was, I think this is where this game broke down, actually, right here in this kind of these early first 2 turns. Letting them have this troll, and not just letting them have it, but just like not having interaction for it felt awkward. And this was really just a Hail Mary, like, do you really want to keep this troll game plan? Like, is that a thing that you want out of this game? And they were willing to daze for it. So I think if we'd have drawn another land here and not had to have troll be our like pseudo land, I think that would have been great. It also would have been great to not draw this this Archon. Drawing the Archon really stunk. You were too worried about playing around days and not considering that troll swings for 6. You just played a little too conservatively, I think. So try to go off on this entomb. And really, like, the biggest thing is, like, okay, well, we'll try and, nab an Atraxa into play. Anything out of this list other than a land probably would have been really good. We can't reanimate this Atraxa, so that's problematic in of itself. And they have a force wall for this anime dead, so we are stone cold dead at this point, going into game 3. So game 3 on the play. This seemed reasonable enough. It had Entomb, it had Reanimate, it had Force of Will. We were able to kind of, try and do some things with that. Short of, like, grief scam on the draw, that we could have been pretty reasonable. We would be pretty reasonable with this sort of setup. Plus also Dark Betrayal. Having that, like, be able to, like, smash a grief on the way down. And just kind of waiting for our opponent to kind of do their thing. Try jamming a Atraxa into play. And I think they had the Fairy Macabre. I think that was what happened here. Is they Fairy Macabre the cards. Yep. So that was rough. Having that happen was kind of rough. At that point, I almost would have gotten Gristlebrand just to not worry about it. Okay. So they get their Undercity Sewers going. And really, I think we're just kind of, like, hanging back here. Just kind of, okay, now we have to play some defense. Maybe, hopefully, a frog would be good. So their frog. And at least we draw a second land here. So we're able to, like, play around Daze and Dark Betrayal this frog. And they don't have an answer for that. Brainstorm. And a Ponder. And then we kind of just get to hopefully do our thing with our Undercity Sewers, see what we got. I ended up putting this pawn in the graveyard. I don't know if that was correct or not, but I leaned on casting Psychic Frog here. Now, to be fair, if they forced this, I think I was okay with them dazing it because I had an Animate dead. So I could force if they tried to do something and then Animate dead whatever they tried to put into play. Again, second frog. Tossing the grief in there. Taking their grief. Taking the Brazen Borrower, actually. This felt very back foot here. I probably should have just, like, animated dead, like the Psychic Frog. Instead choosing to animate dead the grief. And this felt very bad, I think, honestly. I should have either taken my Psychic Frog or put in their Psychic Frog. Because that was what they just chose. They just chose to pitch everything to Psychic Frog to make Psychic Frog really big. So I feel like I should have just went and nabbed a Psychic Frog out of the graveyard. That way, at least we have the okay. I can pitch my Psychic Frog stuff to my Psychic Frog, and then block your Psychic Frog. Hopefully, they just bounce off of each other. But even that felt really awkward and really poor. Yeah, them giving it flying. Smashing in for 4. And really it's okay, well, at this point we're hurting. And this is sort of like your late game scenario. So we kind of just had to hope for the best. Draw another land was not super helpful. We're not getting in all the damage that we need to get off of this. Yes, this Brazen Borrower does at least one thing of putting it back in their hand. They have a second frog, so that really kind of stinks. So I do think the big issue here was trying to grief scam with the animate dead. I think that was a poor decision. Get it under City Sewers and see what's on top. I put this brainstorm on top, and I really don't know why I did. I think I should have put it on the bottom, to be honest with you. Definitely felt very awkward to do so. Especially since our draws were just, like, pretty awful in general. So, yeah. Our opponent is able to just, like, nab at us at this point. Like, they've definitely got enough cards in the graveyard to exile, to Psychic Frog, to give it flying. I don't even know why I didn't even attack here. That brainstorm just kind of killed us. So yeah. So this one was a loss. Felt very awkward. Having double Psychic Frog in play. Very, very awkward. Yeah. I think there were some mistakes made here. Some variance watching through. But yeah, it was. It's always a learning experience. And unfortunately, like, even trying to have like the Brazen Borrower to try to block, you know, super awkward. Apparently they drew some sort of counterspell, so I think they had a Force of Will in hand here for this. And, or no, there was Daze, yeah. So the Daze is really what seals it. Like, and that ends the game. Alright, so we are here for round 4 with Rescaminator. And another one of these where we just open up on, like, the absolute worst hand ever. Just absolutely hilarious. This one looks a little bit better. I mean, it had cards in hand that did stuff. You know, there was a land and a ponder and a Force of Will and a brainstorm. What more can you ask for sometimes? This was kind of a janky hand. I ended up shuffling this, even though I probably shouldn't have. But, yeah. You know, playing with some of the chat options. I think my opponent was trying to talk to me here. I never really use chat. So, the fun fact for anybody who I ever might play against in any of these, on these leagues or anything like that, I don't use the chat really at all. So, about the only time I ever use the chat is when I know who I'm playing against, generally. If it's another player I'm familiar with. So, you know, okay, well, doing some Swamp Cycle in here. They started off with a Green Sun into Dryad Arbor. So, seeing what we got going on here. But, honestly, like, we're at a pretty good spot here, simply because we have, you know, possibly Entomb into a thing. So that might be a pretty reasonable place to be. I would hope that thing would be like Atraxa. Like, we would do Atraxa instead of Archon. Atraxa filling up your hand is just so very strong. So, and that's what we went for. We went for Atraxa. And we get to just attempt to animate dead with Force backup, which is pretty reasonable. And so they had a brainstorm. Probably try to find a Force of Will or something like that to stop this. Atraxa, I feel less bad about like it getting like Source of Plowshared, simply because you know, it's going to draw you a bunch of cards regardless. All right, so Atraxa. This is not the best Atraxa. Like, it really could have been like much better, but having Daze Brainstorm, Force of Will, Psychic Frog, all on board here, pretty reasonable. So I can't solely complain about that. I think at this point is probably when we realized that our opponent was on Bant Nadu, because not many decks lately have been doing turn 1, you know, Green Sun Zenith for 0 into Dryad Arbor, and playing Tropical Island and tundras and, you know, windswept heath and stuff. So, yeah, most assuredly, Nadu was definitely the card that we were scared of the most. Opponent plays a birds. We just let it go ahead and pass. And just attack, honestly. We've got so much going on here for us. We can brainstorm. Put back this Gristlebrand, and I think we also put back the Grief, because having the Dazes up, cutting off their mana also at the same time, pretty reasonable. Hedge Maze. Yeah, I think mainly just wanting to cut them off of having a lot of mana to do stuff with. I think makes the biggest difference here. And as far as I know, they might have, yeah, they played a Plains, and yeah, we definitely ended up having to force this Nadu. We force pitched the Brazen Borrower and nip that in the bud. And then so this gives us an opportunity to under City Sewers, see what's on top, maybe put it in the graveyard. Definitely wanted that on top. That's pretty good top deck. Yeah, daze the nomads. Keep them from having their assembled combo. Then we get to play under City Sewers again. We don't need that, so we can just deploy our Psychic Frog Boy and smash in for 7 or 6. Sorry, yeah, because of Animate Dead, reducing the power by 1. So, yeah, this game feels pretty well on lock at this point. Yeah, they can probably block they could probably block the Atraxa once with the birds. We were absolutely okay with them having a Nomads at this point, because in order for them to get a Nadu, they would have to kind of go all in on it. And 2 cards in hand, not really super protected. So we'll brainstorm. And yeah, these just kind of meh on these hands. We'll put that back. We'll fetch to clear the air. We'll get another. And we'll give the Psychic Frog flying, so that at the very least the Psychic Frog gets through. So they have to block here, or otherwise they're stone cold dead to the Atraxa. Yeah. So them being at 5, us being able to give Psychic Frog, actually being at 4, being able to give Psychic Frog flying, having answers for a Nadu if it was to show up. Yeah, and they wrap it up pretty quickly here. So game 2, being on the draw here. This, I didn't like this hand. So definitely awkward to have 2 of your Reanimator threats in your opening hand, so we definitely shipped it back. This seemed okay. We pitched one of the Entombs, hoping to kind of ride that whole, okay, we've got Psychic Frog Ponder, that sort of thing going on. So just kind of waiting for our opponent to do the thing. So Delighted Halfling is a little scary to play against, simply because you have to respect the fact that they're going to probably be able to get their Nadu through, which is rough. So we opted to ponder. This was a really weird ponder. So I really liked having Shallow Grave there. So yeah, that was pretty good. And then we went ahead and griefed them. And they went ahead and forced this. That made sense. I think that was good, simply because then it allows us to draw and cast Psychic Frog, pitch Atraxa, be able to put Atraxa into play with Shallow Grave. Very reasonable turn of events there. I don't like that they're attacking with Delighted Halfling, which kind of telegraphs that they're trying to either just hold up interaction or something going on here. But jam the Psychic Frog and hope for the best. Hope they don't have a piece of counter or magic or have a removal spell for the frog. Always scary to see a Windswept Heath get cracked in a deck that obviously plays Swords of Plowshares. But hilarious enough, they pitched a Force of Negation to the bin with that Surveil, and I feel like that hurts because them pitching that means that they didn't draw it, and so I think they just assumed that they wouldn't have the mana for it or don't have a blue card in hand for it, but it certainly allowed us to go off the rails here and have force backup plus thing for Atraxa to come into play off Shallow Grave. So this Atraxa was okay. Like, it had Entomb, Animate Dead, Psychic Frog, Polluted Delta. So and we just get to kind of go, hey, let's put and give our Psychic Frog a flying and swing in and get that attack in. So that's attacking for 9 at least. But we got a force in hand at this point. Like, I feel pretty confident and pretty happy about that. And then Wasteland being able to tag their black source. And yes, Atraxa gets exiled to Shallow Grave, but I think having Shallow Grave in the sideboard of this deck is really interesting to me. It lets you do some really, really goofy things. Yeah, attacking is totally fine. I'll go to 24. It'll let you do some really, really, really strong things. So, get in with the attacks. Basically just looking to draw an extra card here. Bowmasters is interesting, but I've got a force. They've got two cards or 3 cards in hand, so they could have a card, but getting to animate dead, this Archon of Cruelty is basically what ends up sealing this. So we'll be headed over to the last round here shortly. Okay, we are here for the last round of this league, and this looked pretty good. Like, you know, it had all the classic things you want to see out of this kind of deck. You're on being on the play. I think I was on, I was on the play. Yeah. So you know, it has the, you know, daze, entomb, reanimate, all that fun stuff. Felt pretty happy about going into this game. Ended up not feeling happy about this game. It was kind of rough, actually. So, I think... Yep. So we went to Entomb. And thinking that, hey, we're going to have to probably spend this days. Just kind of waiting to see if they were going to attempt to force this or not. And yes, so they definitely tried to force that. So we daze the force, are able to snag the thing. Got Traxa. Attempt to reanimate Traxa. And they had a force negation. So, whoops. Real rough there. You know, they definitely caught me there with double force. So that is unfortunate that happened, but it does happen sometimes. So I think we realized pretty quickly that this was some form of Jeskai control, and just drawing like the worst cards ever. You know, here, Days not so great here. As they start pulling away, like Days becomes like a lot worse in that regards. Especially like when you get a daze something like Fourth Year Lingus. Felt really bad to have to daze that. Even more so when our only out here is this Psychic Frog. And we have nothing, literally nothing to pitch to it that is meaningful. Because it's just all lands. And then them just having a prismatic ending for it doesn't really matter. So this game was a lot of back and forth, and drawing this force right now was just really awful, honestly. It was the most unfortunate thing, because there's a Monastery Mentor. I haven't seen a Monastery Mentor in so long. Realistically, like, it's pretty insane how much I have not seen that card in Legacy in a while. I don't know why I put this Brazen Bar in the graveyard. It's not doing anything. I kind of actually needed it to bounce this Mentor. Yeah, because them having a plow for the Psychic Frog. This game just kind of went from, okay, maybe I can do this, to, okay, I think we're dead. Yeah, definitely intriguing. I very much have not seen a Monastery Mentor in a long time. So, but we tried to, you know, reanimate Atraxa. and they had a Force of Will for it. So the problem with Reanimate at this point is that the more you get hit with your with damage and stuff like that, the less Reanimate is good. Because obviously you get to a point where you can't reanimate things because you are now in real trouble. So, and yeah, having these 5 and 7 points of damage here makes it quite rough. So we went ahead and conceded and went over to game 2. And game 2 being on the play. And this looked reasonable enough. Like, there's Ponder Days, Grief, cards, Psychic Frog. If anything, could pitch Entomb to Grief, because Psychic Frog can kind of double as Entomb for this Archon in hand. Just waiting for our opponent to. I think that was the play. So our opponent, I think our opponent mulled to 5. So like 4 or 5, and so it was like a pretty easy decision to just start off with a Grief. Evoke a Grief and go from there and see what we were working with. So pitch Grief. And they had Pyroblast and Tamiyo. I think I went for the Pyroblast. Yeah. So Tamiyo, I feel like it was one of those cards where I probably should have dazed Tamiyo, but as we will see, I didn't even think about it. Like, it was kind of awkward that Tamiyo was not a card that I was considering dazing. I should have, but at the same time, it actually didn't matter, which is weird. It's kind of like one of those situations where kind of a poor decision kind of just still works out in your favor. I was just not thinking about it, but yeah, wanting to frog. And Frog being kind of a good card here. Because, as we'll see, they flip Tamiyo. So they brainstorm and they flip Tamiyo. And it's weird because Tamiyo doesn't really seem that good here. Especially against Frog, where I can grow it and at least still get it to do some damage. So they definitely were like threatening Swords of Plowshares here. So we're like, okay, second Psychic Frog, we'll pitch Archon of Cruelty to that so that we can at least get the combat damage trigger. So we'll attack the Tamiyo. So this is where where Psychic Frog is really good because it has the ability to trigger off of damaging either players or planeswalkers, which is kind of nuts. So Brainstorm. Neither of these really felt like super good. So we put back the Wasteland. They were definitely playing like mono basics. So deploy another Frog. And really just kind of hope for the best here. I think it was like the biggest thing. Like, try and keep Narset off the board. So the Ponder, fine. not worried about a ponder, but really just keeping Narset off the board, I think, was the biggest thing. And apparently they just valued having the Pyroblast more than they valued having Tamiyo keep ticking up, because they decided to -3 Tamiyo to get back the Pyroblast, which then removes Tamiyo, which is rough for sure. So we do get to draw, and we get to attack with the frogs. We get to draw 2 cards off the froggies, which is nice. And we get just like grief, pitch grief, and then get rid of that Pyroblast, which is kind of goofy. And then I think we're just holding up the 2 dazes. Here's really what it boils down to. Really, it's to get rid of Tamiyo. But they seemed not super interested, or not Tamiyo, Narset. We're getting rid of one of the frogs with a plow. That's totally fine. I don't really like this ponder really at all. It's kind of terrible. So we ended up shuffling it away. Which actually felt really good because we drew a second frog. And then get to deploy second frog. And frog really just puts in the work in this game. It's such a... the amount of cards we draw off a frog. All right, so we play with the, okay, force you to pay 1 for the days, and then days again. It really just play the tempo game and protect the frogs. And yeah. And go on to our next turn. And attack with some creatures. So we know that they don't have that Narset anymore. But the biggest thing here to nab out of this, reanimate. Go ahead and play the land, reanimate the Archon of Cruelty, and then that would be all she wrote on game 2. So going into game 3, we are again on the draw for this game. This is an okay hand. It's got like ponder, troll, reanimate. That's a fairly reasonable line. Reanimate, troll. Force them to have a plow of some sort, that sort of thing. It seemed like a reasonable play. So we ended up keeping that. And our opponent just waiting for the game to start for them to keep whatever they were going to keep. So Prismatic Vista. I felt really happy with this game. So Tamiyo, I'm not sure how I feel about Tamiyo in general. Tamiyo in general has always felt pretty weird. This felt like a very strange... I think we just decided to do the thing. So we ended up just pitching the troll. Or no, we went. Sorry, we didn't pitch the troll. We went to the next phase. Try and see where we could go with that. And hold on to the grief scam when we have mana. I think that was like the biggest thing. So Tamiyo gets to draw a card here. Like, well, basically Tamiyo gets to make a clue, which is definitely interesting. And then holding up Island Plains. So I think at this point we're like, okay, well, we grief them to try and probe for Force of Will. They're a cycle Lorien revealed, so we don't take Lorien revealed. I would rather just have a get rid of a Force of Will. So they have a plow for this grief, which is fine, because that wasn't the whole point of this grief line. The whole point of the grief line was to go, okay, yep, you don't have any, your shield's down on that. Now, weirdly enough, I think I should have gotten Atraxa or Gristlebrand here. I did get Archon, which felt kind of awkward because our opponent ends up ripping a Teferi off the top. So, kind of goofy in that regards, but it ends up being somewhat fine because of Frog. So yeah, they have Teferi, and they Teferi bounce the Archon, which still seems really good to me, honestly. I still think that's a reasonable exchange. So we play that Wasteland, and we get rid of their red source. Now, they pitched the prismatic ending to something, so it was not present there. So we kind of get to do some things. You know, put it out there to attack in with Teferi into the Teferi. So here's something unique. Like, okay, they have a Containment Priest, but we can give the Frog flying, smash in on the Teferi, get to draw a card off of that. And then we just kind of hang out here, honestly. Like, they have no cards in hand. They're trying to just plow. Like, I think we protect the Frog. They have nothing to do there with that. They draw a card off of the clue. And then we get to, like, just hang loose and just chill. Because why not? We can. It's pretty good. So Undercity Sewers. We can put Grief in the graveyard. Then we'll Petty Theft. That Petty Theft that in case they run into having a reanimate or something, or we draw a reanimate. Bowmaster's pretty good here, actually. If they are going to attempt to climb out of the game at all, then having Bowmaster's pretty reasonable. I didn't know why I played this island. I didn't play this island. I think I was just trying to fade the fact that I had something in my hand that was useful instead of having just, 2 cards. But obviously, like, they're not going to play this Containment Priest sure, second bowmaster felt pretty good here. Get smash in with the so we are able to just. They weirdly put this containment priest in after blockers, so they couldn't even block with it, which was weird. So they surgical extraction the Archon of Cruelty, which is weird because you would think you would surgical extraction grief, but being able to reanimate like a thing like our Archon would be pretty well lights out for this game. But so they definitely go to attack. We're able to fatal push the containment priest. And really this frog has carried most of this game. Like the frog has really made the game what it is. And yeah, it continues to do good work throughout this game. Frog especially is just a fantastic Magic card in general, and I think it's very strong. Strong enough for them to have a plow, or having to have an answer for it is a big deal. So troll, we just kind of swing in, put a counter on. We don't need this entomb. Put them to 3. And now this reanimate is a huge deal because we can just reanimate our grief and take what they have in their hand, and that wraps it up. Okay, so that about ends this particular league. We did end on a nice tidy 3-2. We did have some weird variance rewatching those videos and rewatching each of the rounds. But on some of the ones we lost, but I felt pretty happy with the ones we won. There was definitely some very interesting games there. Being able to really go on the offensive with Psychic Frog really felt really good. I think this deck is kind of ridiculous, unfortunately, and it has those games where it just kind of does its thing, and you have to respect that it does its thing. And unfortunately, a lot of that does its thing is exacerbated by grief. So I do hope that eventually here, I hope that Wizards listens to the community and takes some feedback about getting rid of grief and going from there. I hope that happens before August 26th, but if it doesn't happen before August 26th, we'll keep trucking along and we'll try other cool things in Legacy. I would like to do a video on the red-green version of Eldrazi Aggro, which is the version that plays Eldrazi Linebreaker. We will obviously try to maybe see if there's anything from Bloomburrow that might have some functionality for Bloomburrow. But I didn't really see much. My set review is out on MTG Goldfish this past week. So, but yeah, again, I'd like to thank the Magic Online Content Creator Program for allowing me to do these kinds of videos. This was a new experiment for me, trying it this way, where I recorded all the matches without sound, and then I went back through and put my words over the top of them. So I hope it went well. If you like this style, please let me know in the comments. I would very much like to know if that's something you liked better than having just me trying to talk over the gameplay while I'm playing. I'm trying to see if maybe that is a real big issue for me, and it's simply because of maybe it's cutting into my ability to kind of process the game and be able to play properly. I do tend to play a little bit better when I'm not trying to talk out loud on things, so maybe that's where I need to be in that space. But yeah, looking forward to doing some more. I've definitely got a bunch of ideas I want to do. I definitely want to do some more vintage videos. I haven't had one of those in a while, so I want to get one of those out as well. And yeah, so everybody, if you would please like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, let me know that you're following. And we'll see you all next time, and have a great rest of your week.